Podcast is brought to you by Team B, Jasmine, Sherrell, Sherrondha, and Krista. Learning or Cognitive Personality Theories Podcast. Here we go. Theorists have been fascinated with human behavior and their thought process. Why a person acts and responds in the manner that they do is something that theorists have wondered for so long. Theorists such as Bandura have learned by observing humans. They did this so they can obtain the best possible data, which will help them understand why people do what they do. Albert Bandura's theory is based on ideas that people learn by watching other people and how they behave. He suggested our thought process is central to understanding personality, and this theory gives us a basis for understanding, predicting, and the changes in human behavior. The main tenets of Bandura's theory is that people learn by observing others. The same set of stimuli may provoke different responses from different people or from the same people in different times. The world and a person's behavior are interlinked, and personality is an interaction between three factors: the environment, behavior, and a person's psychological processes. Social cognitive theory revolves around the idea that learning correlates to the observation of role models such as parents, teachers, or coaches. Bandura research established that there are certain steps in the model processing. Social cognitive theory takes an organic perspective, meaning that humans have the capacity to exercise control over nature and quality of their lives. People are the procedures as well as the products of social systems. Learning cognitive theory's important components of the triadic reciprocal causation model is self-efficacy. People's performance is generally enhanced when they have high self-efficacy. That is the confidence that they can perform those behaviors that will produce desired behaviors in particular situations. As stated above, behaviors are reenacted as they are seen. For instance, behavior patterns can and are followed by what is taught, watched, and have learned. If a child at a daycare sees another child, then their behavior then their behavior pattern after time will have been learning how to share, especially if the child is an only child and has never had a sharing experience before. Motivation is the key when it comes to relationships of learning, such as the social cognitive theory. For example, a teacher has a classroom full of students, and they're in the lesson except for one student, of which seems distant and lost. The teacher tells the class to continue reading chapter 5 in their history books, and then the teacher walks over to the student and asks what's wrong. Sam replies, "I don't get a lesson today." The teacher then replies, "That's fine, Sam, that happens to me sometimes too. So let's do this. As we are reading chapter 5 of our history books, why don't you imagine that you are one of the characters in the story?" Sam looks up at his teacher with a huge smile on his face and says, "That sounds like fun." This is one way to motivate a student and go from a behavior of resisting to do his work and a behavior of motivation to not only understand what is also being included and to complete his work. Another learning theory, which is behaviorism, is classified as behavior that is learned through observation. Within the example of Sam, the behavior theory would conclude a different factor of learning. Within the example, Sam finds it difficult to obtain motivation to learn within the classroom setting. The social cognitive approach allows Sam to learn with reinforcement, which is the premises of learning as fun, from the teacher, and which was the structure of his motivation. When the behavior approach is added to this example, the motivation of learning becomes different. Sam is within the classroom having difficulty paying attention to the lesson as the teacher speaks. Sam watches the other students and notices how each student is paying attention and answering the teacher's questions. Sam then raises his hand and becomes engaged in the classroom lesson. The behavior approach would suggest that Sam's motivation was derived by observing the other students' behavior during the lesson. Sam's observation, including raising their hand to ask and answer questions, as well as paying attention to the teacher. Observing the behavior of the other students, Sam understood that his behavior should be the same as the other students to be part of the class. The social theory of learning differs from behavior theory of learning in ways of observation, meaning the motivation of learning. Within the behavioral approach and individual response to environmental stimuli, in which in Sam's case was the viewing the behavior of the other children opposed to his own current behavior. Sam's behavior was classified as extrinsic, because he wanted to fit in with the other students, which is positive reinforcement. Strengths would include promoting self-regulation and its importance, utilizes cognition, human behavior, and our environment while conducting extensive research, points out that self-efficacy, punishments, and reinforcements contribute to how motivation is affected and how a person will go after their goals. Theory was evolving, provided good insights for clinical psychology, occupational therapy, and social work. Limitations included not placing full focus on personality traits, biological differences, human differences, cognitive processes, and mood changes, other than to say they exist, but not to what extreme. They did not accurately connect concepts in an understandable way. The unconscious mind was not considered, and it did not connect hormonal and biological factors. It also did not attribute any mental disorders to his theory. Attention. You need to pay attention to learning something new. There's striking or different something. The more striking or different something is, the more likely it is to gain our attention. Retention is when you must be able to remember what you have paid attention to. We store what you have seen the model doing by verbal descriptions or mental images, and it may help you reproduce the model within your own behavior. Reproduction. You are now translating the images of the description into actual behavior. You must first have the ability to reproduce the behavior. Our abilities improve even when just imagining ourselves performing. And motivation. You must be motivated or have a reason. If not, we'll try to imitate the model. There are a number of motives such as past reinforcement, promised reinforcement, and vicarious reinforcement. Our references today were from Feist, J. Feist, J.G., and Roberts, P.A., Theories of Personality, 8th edition, New York, New York. McLeod, S.A. Bandura, Social Theory Learning, retrieved from simplypsychology.org. And the Learning Theory and Research Overview of Learning Theories, 2005 to 2014, retrieved from berkeley.edu. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. Have a great day.